participant here in this course of community organizations, community work and social action. So we have discussing on social action part. So as in the last session, we have discussed about the Gandhian approach of social action, or the different strategies which has been given by Gandhian philosophy. So taking the Gandhian philosophy into the context, so in the same way, there are some other stages of the social action which has been drawn from the Sarvodaya strategy on the Sarvodaya movement. So in the social action, to understand this, you could apply more practically in the Indian context. So the very first step which has been drawn from the idea or the philosophy of Sarvodaya movement is the Parichaya. Parichaya is what? First introduction. So this is the stage of introduction to the clientele and then their social needs and problems. In this stage, social issues and strategies are introduced to the masses. So until the masses has not been aware about their own issues and their own concerns, they would not come to participate and they would not relate to the problems and then cause. So very first step as per this Sarvodaya strategy or Sarvodaya movement or this Gandhian philosophy is about the Parichaya. That is through you can first introduction of the problem and to the masses. Next is about the Adhyan. Adhyan is what? Is the study or research. So here information gathering is important from the population on the burning issues and an impact of the socio-economic cultural aspect of life are discussed in great detail, that how this problem and cause is going to affect you all. So that is what the survey or study or the research. Next step is about prachar, that is propaganda. So for the social action, as the Mary Richmond has also talked about the propaganda for the mass betterment. So propaganda has always taken so important. Propaganda taken as a positive connotation is so important in the social action method. So it involves actually creating awareness to the mass level. After Adhyan, you have to go with the prachar, that is the propaganda. The propaganda is meant for mass mobilization for taking action in the integrated level. So that is what, when the community is understand their concerns, so they would come and participate. Next is about the Sehvasa. Sehvasa is what? The association. Cooperation is sought from the different people and organizations. Work is so much required because you cannot alone bring changes into the social structure and into the social system. So for bringing greater change for the larger masses, it's important for to develop some kind of association, maybe with some other agency, to the governmental offices, to the some government policies and programs, to the some CBOs, or to the general leaders or the local leaders available in the community, or any leader for sake, like sometimes the policy influencers, they can influence and they can bring changes easily into the policy thing. Next is about the seva and service. So this is what the welfare and development services are offered to the largest or to the target population. It helps in establishing support. So seva is what? Now you have set the stage for the social action. Now the seva has to be started. Seva from you, and seva is from as well as from the masses towards each other. Next is about the pratikara, that is the resistance. It involves coercive measures against the existing authority which require change of power, structure and functioning. So this pratikar and resistance is definitely in part and parcel of social action. If you go with all, after all study and the mass propaganda and everything happened, so then you have to ask for the rights and for the bringing the change in the status quo. So that is definitely disrupting to those who are actually enjoying from the past. So they don't want actually. So that time resistance, or that is what the pratikar step is required. Next is about the construction work or community service. So emphasis on the constructive activities carried out at the community level. This enhances the credibility of the movement. So constructive work or community service is very integral part of the Gandhian philosophy of social work, where community construction is so important, where that through this whole any kind of the constructive activity in the community develop the kind of credibility towards that cause, right, and to that agency, to those people who are actually working for any social action. Building the climate change. Social environment is made conducive to the positive change. Now, Next step, and this is so important step, again all these steps are overlapping, or maybe sometimes some step is comes first, but even though every step is having their own potential, having their own significance, right? So building the climate change, so we all know that the person in environment approach, where that if you bring the changes in the environment, that's actually going to change the whole every individual's life. So for the mass betterment, through the propaganda we can bring changes into the climate, that could be the social climate. Now the next topic which is has to be taken in today's session is about the tactics involved into social action. This is somehow related to the strategy. So as the Lee has suggested some very important tactics that needs to be followed. So Potter or Lee suggests these 9 tactics used by social actionists or the social workers in various stages of social action. These tactics generally overlap across multiple stages in the process of the social action. These tactics you can put into the Gandhian steps of social action, right? So here it starts from the research, as Adhyan has already been suggested by the Gandhian philosophy. So research is the very first tactics through which you can understand the issues, concerns and the cause. Education, that is the mass awareness has been required, so through any ways, through any kind of the edutainment. So education through some kind of the entertainment, you can also distribute some kind of the IC material, wall painting, nukkad natak, some folk dance, some medias. You can use any mode of creating education, creating mass awareness among the masses towards some cause and some issues. Then cooperation is again important, as in the in the Gandhian philosophy we have discussed that how it is important to develop the kind of the cooperation with the other agencies, with the other masses, with the leaders of the community, and with the leaders who is influence having the influencing power. So cooperation is so important, the most important cooperation with the masses. And organization, when the cooperation, you have feel that cooperation is there, so now to that time comes to organize those. So organization is another very important tactics to move with the for the social action. Then negotiation is again sometime with other parties with whom you have to ask for the rights and for the changes. So they don't agree with, so you have to negotiate with, and that negotiation maybe with some kind of the bargaining or something like that. So the another very important tactics in a social actions always come. Then arbitration is a method of resolving disputes outside of the courtroom kind of things, right? Typically used when parties are unable to come to and to reach to some kind of the agreement, so through negotiation or other means of conflict resolution. So then at that time it involves the submission of a disputes to an impartial third party, or known as the arbitrator. So it could be a formal arbitrator, as been said by the some state or by the some court, or it could be you have take any arbitrator from someone from the community who is you considered as a impartial for both the parties, right? So who has authority to make some kind of the binding decisions on the matter. So arbitration then is a mild coercion. So even things has not been done by all these tactics, so the sometime coercion and mild coercion has been required. So again it's not suggestive so much of conflicting in nature, but mild coercion is required, so for to put some kind of the pressure. Then violation of legal norms, sometime through some dharna, through some kind of your agitation you can show against some kind of the laws or some legal things which you actually feel that it's not good for the larger cause. So that is what the violation of the legal norms. Joint action, and there's also a way you can actually expose you actually put some pressure to the government and to attract the government and then authorities to look towards that aspects. Maybe you don't want to change that legal aspect, but just to by violating some kind of the legal norms, you actually brought the attention of the authorities towards the cause which you were there for. Joint action, this is also the kind of the cooperation. So cooperation is is the milder form. That in the joint action, many a time for the larger causes you need some more joint action from maybe some other agencies, from the governmental, it could be any governmental or non-governmental, for for some larger causes, maybe for the environmental cause, as is an important goal of the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal. So lots of the international agencies are working for this cause, and when you see that this thing is somewhere violating in your community, so at that time you actually taking support from some higher authority or some other international agencies, and with this joint action you can easily bring changes into the system and into the structure. So coming to the further um, tactics, these, I mean, explicitly like fact finding that we have already discussed, publicity, advocacy, dissemination using both formal and informal media, education, awareness building, conscientization, mobilizing support and opinion through established institutional system and political processes, then expressing anger, wrath, hatred in dramatic and then innovative ways. I mean, definitely not so much suggestive for the so much of the bloodshed kind of the movements. Rather, it could be through some more formal way, some kind of the some very interesting way, some artistic way. You can go with some nukkad natak or some rallies, some poster makings and all. Cooperation, collaboration is required. Using slogans is always very catchy, right? So you move into the community with some kind of slogans is always very catchy, and many a time the slogans brought a lot of the changes into the even in the political arena, and so to the social arena. Negotiation, bargaining and arbitration if it is required, that you think that it has not been easily handled, so you have to go with some kind of negotiation, bargaining, or if it has not been done by them, so you can also use the arbitration technique. Disruption and mild coercion, again, if mild resistance, protest, march, morcha, dharna, strikes, boycott, fast, ghirao, etc. could be done under this. So that all defines of orders and various forms of economic sanctions. Strong coercive tactics like the extra legal measures and direct actions is the last voice if the things has been not been done by the earlier strategy, so one can go with that. Now coming to the models of social action. This is somewhat very important, as we have already discussed some of the models of community organization. So now we have to discuss about the models of social action here with a little, so these models of social action, first we have to take in by the Brito. So this Brito has actually categorized social action into two models. One is the elitist social model and second is the popular social action model. So it may be retrieved that when certain motivated, progressive and sensitive people raise voice on behalf of the marginalized sections of the population, primarily without active participation of the population group, that is what the elitist social action. When the elites of the group or elites of the community, they come forward to raise voice and to work for the betterment of the masses. So this is called elitist model of social action. On the other hand, in the popular social action model, when marginalized people, they themselves actually carry forward the task of liberation from exploitation, may or may not be with the leadership or guidance of social action, any action activist or worker. It comes in the category of popular social action when the idea of that the issue or the cause is been popularized, been identified by the masses, right? So further, this elitist model and then popularist model have been divided into three sub models in each category. Now let's discuss one by one. So elite group conducts studies on this gravity, extent and urgency of the problem and make it a public opinion. So here target population may not involve in this type of the legislative action model. This is a process in which some elites, either by themselves or in coalition with like-minded individuals, legislator or agencies, resort to lobbying and allied activities in order to achieve some benefits for the entire segment of the people or prevent some kind of the maladies from affecting their clientele or to remove some problem that is hindering their growth. The usual method is elite groups are conducting studies on the gravity, extent, and urgency of the problem, creating a public opinion and lobbying, and try to modify social policy or legislation. So, the example could be the Child Labor Prohibition Act or Dowry Prohibition Act in 1961, Sati Prevention Act 1987. So these there are many other acts has been actually enacted when the some elite group have been identified that this is the problem that need to be resolved, right? And then after studying whole things, they have to actually advocate on behalf of the masses. And so we have seen that a lot of the changes has been happening in the some legislative in some legislation. Like the great example is Sati Prevention Act. Next is economic sanction model. This economic sanction model actually where elites leverage their power to influence some economic conditions or financial gains of the oppressors who are denying to actually denying the labor class their rightful share. Social worker, activist, or any actionist, the client controls certain economic resources using them as a tool to resource benefit for their clients. There have been numerous instances where the labor offers have been negotiated for the economic improvements such as the pay raises, medical insurance, and community development programs like education for the children of laborers, provisions of electricity, and access to safe drinking water from the management profiting from the labor class hard work. So this is what economic sanction model is about. Somehow it's like CSR ideology means where the elite group has actually getting all those social and economic and financial gains. Out of that, they have given something in return to the to the community, to the masses, or not always in return to the, but given some substantial support system to them, because what they it's like it's believing that they are also the part of that whole system, so they also have to get some kind of the benefit out of that. But even though in the economic sanction model, elite is more in privilege, right? So in this process, elite gains control over various economic, social, political, or religious institutions to secure benefit for society. So Elitist has given one example and consider proxies for the people. Exemplify this approach with an example that Elitist engaged with middle class group and churches leaders who held shares in the Eastman Kodak company. So this was one event, and acquired several proxies for his organization for the benefit of the Marxists. So Saul Alinsky, along with some of the churchmen and then some masses, so they have asked for some of the rights, some of the benefits from some company, that is the Eastman Kodak company, on behalf of, because that has been set up there, that has been somehow they feel that exploited the whole exploited the and they actually acquire the benefit of that community. So it's also their responsibility to give back and to compensate something to the community. So that is what economic sanction model. Coming to the next is about that direct physical action model. So here elites takes the law in their own hands, and many may punish the one who may responsible for the discontent or injustice, and create the situation for the masses, for the mass betterment. When the elite, they themselves recognize that okay, that person, that community is actually is responsible for some kind of the discontent or injustice into the society. If we take the example here of the Naxalite, that adopted the same process on the preparators of feudal operation, their action has drawn national attentions to the problem of the rural poor, and the enlightened self-interest has urged the rulers to announce several reform measures and the outbreak of Naxal activities. Although this started with the purpose of social justice and power redistribution, that's okay and acceptable, but it seems to have lost its goals and now turned out to be no better than that. Many a time at terrorist activities we have heard in a lot of the news in on television. So idea was the direct physical action model started with the idea, but later on it has been diffused. It's happened with number of the social action movements. When it diffused after a certain period of time, if the leaders has not actually directed the things, and because of the different leaders has actually taken up the whole movements. Another very important and typical example of this model would be whatever happened during the freedom movement. So Indian revolutionary group did during the freedom struggle. So that was all the direct physical action model where the the revolutionarist or freedom fighters, when they saw that something is not good been done by the British, so they have taken a lot of the time law in their own hands, and they try to punish those, maybe the Britishers, who believe that are the reasons behind any kind of the injustice or discontent in the overall society. So that is what the direct physical action model. Next is about the popular social action. This popular social action model is based on the Paul Ferrero idea of mass betterment through education. So actually, Paul Ferrero making awareness of the masses through education. This popular social action is based on the Paul Ferrero idea of mass betterment through education. So he tried to make the awareness and oppression of, talking about the oppressors and oppression and oppressed, and he believed that through some kind of the education and mass awareness, this could be changed. So Paul Ferrero felt that the situation contained exciting possibilities for the true liberation of humankind, as well as for the efficient demonstration of the man. He believed that education can be as an important tool and is based on the concept of creating awareness among masses through the education, and he believed that education can be tool for re-education and social action. This is about the re-socialization, right? So education with the correct content could change the masses, their ideologies, their belief systems, their behavior. So Paul Ferraro awareness on oppression, oppressed and oppressor, actually talking about their relationship, the power structure, and the ways to actually liberate from the oppressed or oppressor classes. So this particular popular social action model is totally a very formal way of creating social action by creating mass mobilization through proper awareness generation through education, educating the masses about the issues and then concerns. Next is about dialectal mobilization model. These conscientization model of popular social action is the second is the first model under the popular social action model. Second model under the popular social action model is the dialectal mobilization model of popular social action model. Here it's about the thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. This relating to the logical discussion of ideas, of opinions between the concerned with the acting through some opposing forces, so having some kind of the logical discussion with the opposing party. So the key idea is the conflict or disagreement can be useful because it forces people to think deeply and challenge their assumptions. So like it's about creating more and more brainstorming kind of thing, where so once you actually come into some kind of the dialogue deliveries, dialogue exchange, so maybe you understand the other party's assumption, and you sometimes you challenge the other's assumption and others challenge your assumption. When that contradictions are worked through, it's believed that a better understanding or system will actually emerge from the process. So in short, dialectic is about using conflict or opposing ideas to make progress and create something better. So dialectic means the art of logical disruption or logical discussion, even when individuals or groups takes up extreme position and argue, the position of one may be taken as the thesis. Means I'm actionist, I'm a thesis, and that of the others is antithesis, with whom you are arguing with. You are actually trying to get your due position, or so no, that is what that is known as the antithesis. Supposing that as a result of their argumentation between the thesis and the antithesis, what the result would come, that is the synthesis. Synthesis is what? The assumption of yours and assumptions of thesis and assumptions of antithesis, or idea of thesis and antithesis come together and coming to some common aspect. That is what the synthesis. So it is promoting conflict to exploit the contradiction in a system, with the belief that a better system will emerge as a result of better discussion or dialectal discussions. Next is about direct mobilization model of popular social action. In this process, The action is takes up special or specific issues pertaining to the oppressed. They analyze the cause which are rooted for injustice. So they formulate the alternative policies and procedure to mobilize the masses for protest activities for the purpose of achieving a set objective. So direct mobilization model here means it's a process of taking action on some specific issues pertaining to the oppressed, means the disadvantaged community, and the analysis of the cause of the root of the injustice, that formulate the alternative policies and procedures. Okay, this way you are being actually um, oppressed, you are being exploited by others, so let's move, we can actually avoid this policy, we should not go with this policy, we actually going against of this policy, and we can opt this policy. So this is also a kind of the direct mobilization, maybe to the elite, to tell them about the alternates policy, and also mobilization of the resources, mobilization of the policy makers, to inform them, to convince them towards the better policies, the better programs for the disadvantaged. The next model of social action is considered to be more suited to the Indian context. So that is known as the Lok Shakti model of social action. This reflects the Gandhiji's holistic version of social change, which actually integrate the individual moral growth, collective actions, and the ethical transformation of society. By combining gradual constructive work with the masses, mass mobilization, and state cooperation, it aims to build a society grounded in justice, self-reliance, and moral values. It underscores the importance of the education, awareness building, and community empowerment in creating lasting social change within an ethical framework. So this Shakti model of social action is a framework derived from, as we have discussed, from the Gandhian principle of social work and mass mobilization. It is rooted in the idea of bringing about transformational change in social structure through non-violent and constructive and inclusive approaches. This model focuses on the importance of both individual and collective efforts to the shape society, emphasizing the value of moral and ethical transformation alongside social action. So, morality and ethical transformation is also required sometimes in the bringing the change into the system and to the structure of the society. Two major approaches, if you looking into the idea of this Lok Shakti model, could be derived as gradual social change within the existing framework, and then radical and direct action. So one thing is gradual and slow change approach, another is Lok Shakti model is talking about radical and direct action, means the immediate changes has been required, right? So this actually aims to eliminating the exploitation and poverty, provision of equal opportunity to all for self-development. So full development of the material and moral resources of society. So material and then moral resources of the society, and their adequate opportunity appropriation. They believe that in the socialist society, people are voluntarily prepared to give their own interest and wishes to the larger interest of the society. Such as a kind of the socialism cannot be achieved only through political inaction. Political action, social action is also needed. So Sarvodaya is taken as a social movement aimed at individual and social action, emphasizes is laid on the revolution in thought and method, the role of citizen, the need for the Lok Shakti, people's power, and the Sammati, that is people's consent, or the building it up, Swaraj, like that is a self-governance, and Swaraj, that is a good governance. So this is what the idea of Lok Shakti model of the social action. So gradual social changes, as I have already discussed, is about the in the gradual social change within the existing framework is about one group believes that social change can be brought about change gradually within the existing legal, constitutional, and institutional structure. The focus here is in educating the masses and building awareness to appeal to the conscience of those who hold power and property. So slowly and gradually, after understanding, after developing the consensus on the issues, this could be the change. The goal is to convince them to sacrifice their privileges for the common goods, to to whom you are actually trying to convince, that is the elite group of the community. So this approach maintain that change can be achieved through dialogue, moral persuasions, and the non-violent resistance, with working within the framework of the existing system, so that by actually influencing and convincing the elite, so they will be ready to actually give their due support for the mass betterment. As for, there are a lot of examples like the Bhudan movements, where the haves or the zamindars have given their lands to the landless. Gramdan even was there. So these are some gradual social, that is the idea behind the gradual social change within the existing framework. Next is about the radical and direct action. So the second group might emphasize more direct radical actions, often involving mass movement and protest aimed at challenging the existing structure of power. This approach focuses on creating widespread awareness and collective action that can disrupt the status quo, forcing the system to take note and make changes. Here is about to creating awareness among the masses. In the gradual, there is a creating awareness among more towards to the elite group. So then once they get realized, they would actually do participate for the mass betterment. In the radical and direct actions could be done by the masses. So this approach focuses on creating widespread awareness and collective action that can disrupt the status quo, forcing the system to take note and make changes. It may involve non-cooperation, civil disobedience, and other forms of peaceful resistance, aiming at the dismantling of exploitative social and economic structure of the society. So overall, the here in this looking into this idea, so Lok Shakti is the essence of the democracy. Means the Lok Shakti may be of the elite or maybe of the masses. More than the state power, that is the Rajya Shakti. Because Rajya Shakti cannot fulfill all its objectives without Lok Shakti. So until the masses is not come forward to support for their own and for the haves not, so only the Rajya Shakti or the state cannot resolve all the concerns, all the issues of the masses in large. So this is all about today's session. Thank you so much.